Austin Nola. Suarez fires. Pop fly. Right field. Segura's out. Castellanos on. And the Philadelphia Phillies are going to the World Series.
What's up, folks? It is Tuesday night, and we are live here at the LG Direct Sales Solutions Studios in Tampa, Florida. And yes, the long-awaited time that we all been waiting for is to say that the Phillies are back in the World Series. And I've yet to let out my screen because over the weekend we're down in Sarasota, and as we were seated down at the Bearded Clam, the one thing that I said to my producers over in Studio B was that I wanted to let out a scream, and I let out a small one, and everybody that was sitting there at the bar was like, what just happened? So I had to explain to everybody the Phillies were in the World Series for the first time since 2009 when we went there and lost against the Yankees. But of course, in 2008, if everybody remembers here, 2008, the Phillies ended up winning it all, and they became the hottest team right now in Major League Baseball. So yes, we know that the Astros are the ones going to be there once again to see if they can take down the Phillies. But I think right now the momentum carries with the Phillies. And if you guys have seen here in the early going, as far as the promotional videos, it doesn't get more exciting than this, folks. It's been a long time coming. We know everybody was celebrating out there in Philadelphia, out on Broad Street. Of course, I'm the only one celebrating down here on Broad Street South. And I actually went down to Broad Street in Brooksville, right across from Wawa, and the only one that was just flying around and having fun with my own self for the most part. But we're going to get into that. Obviously, the Eagles are coming back off the bye week as well. So we know they're going to get back into action here this week. Sixers finally got their first win. But before that, just like the Philly faithful, they were saying fire Doc Rivers. Not surprising whatsoever. So with all that being said, we have hopefully joining us in a little bit as well, when I'm being Anthony Bleak from yours, ours, and everyone's, the Charlotte Purple Jackets, along with the president of the basketball league, as I've been talking about him, as I've been doing interviews with the different teams. David Magley himself, Coach Mags, will be with us. And as I say, like I've been talking about the last couple of weeks as well, don't forget, please, to like and subscribe to our YouTube page. Listen to the audio download. Therefore, you guys can keep up with the show and stay with the show just like everyone else does, from Italy to Spain to Africa to everywhere around the world, as we have gone not only national, but we've gone global, and we're pretty darn proud of that as well. So just hang on, everybody, as we're getting the show here started. The gang is all here. I can already see David here waiting in the green room, Sean, Fuji, and Dylan is pointing to his goofy hat. I don't know why. Don't mind Dylan tonight because apparently he's somewhere else. But with that being said, we thank everybody for tuning in once again, episode 164. I'm Angel, and welcome to Broad Street South. Now, as always, it is the Godfather himself that comes from the stadium. And believe it or not, they had to kick him out of Citizens Bank Park because he's been sitting there all weekend long. But with us here on the other side, it is the Godfather, Mike Fuji. Fuji, what's up?
World Series 2022. Bring on those Houston Astros, kicking it off Friday night down in Houston. The first two, I'll be at Game 3. Come next Monday night, Halloween. Angel, how are you? The city's rocking. The whole Philadelphia area is rocking. Phillies Nation's rocking. How the hell are you?
Listen, I probably need to get back from the microphone just a little bit so I don't blow everybody's ears out here. But Fuji, it's been a long time. It's been a long time. And Lord knows that we've been waiting for this forever. It is time to get down in the World Series. It's time to get dirty. I'm so happy that we're able to close things down in Philly. Boy, I cannot get more excited than what I am right now because Lord knows it has been forever. It's been forever, and I can't wait for this series to start. I know that we saw Sean and unfortunately David go away, but hopefully they'll come back here soon. But Fuji, it is exciting to be a Philly fan. It is beyond exciting to be a Philly fan.
Oh, it's phenomenal right now. 11 years ago already, last time I was working down Citizens Bank Park, left 5 years ago, was a part of that 08, 09, 10, 11 run. Ever since 11 years later, Bryce Harper, the MVP, bringing it, stepping up to the leader that he is in clutch time, putting the Phillies into the World Series, bringing it home. It doesn't get any better than this. The Birds coming off the bye. And the phenomenal thing is I will be in Houston next week with Philly Sports Trips. Vince Rizzuto, the Philly sports guy, supporting Philly against those Astros when Game 5 is next Wednesday. So we're kicking it off. We're kicking it live. Philly, Houston. The rivalry begins. We're taking it back to 1980 when the Phillies took the Astros in 5 games, and they went on to beat the Kansas City Royals in 6 games.
Yes, indeed.
So it doesn't get any better than this.
No, it doesn't. And along with that, other than, well, it does get better as long as Dylan starts wearing the correct hat. But don't mind that Toronto Blue Jays that he has on there. But regardless, we have on our Tampa correspondent here, Dylan Spalding, and our sports contributor, Sean Kerrang. Gentlemen, how are you this evening?
Sean,
good.
How first? Sorry.
I'm good.
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good, boys. Phillies are back in the playoffs, or not back in the playoffs, World Series. Let's go. You got the Philly. Listen, I have a contract I got to, adhere to.
And once again, that's how you lose that one there by his contract. And don't forget, Tony Bruno, the man himself, the legendary broadcaster, is here with us this evening. And you guys want to know exactly where he is, you can tune in to the No Filter Network into the night with Tony B, Friday nights at 7 p.m. on the No Filter Network. And Tony is on the line with us because, you have sometimes technical difficulties. But Tony, thank you for joining the show. We appreciate it. And by the way, how are things in your neck of the woods?
Well, things are getting better every day. Obviously, here in Cape Coral, we got hammered pretty badly. We didn't have power for 9 days. They got that back on. We didn't have water for 9 days, and they got that back on. So we had to fill up the bathtub and do all that other stuff. And then we didn't have internet or cable, and that's only been resolved in the last few days. And unfortunately for Comcast down here, when they got our neighborhood up, because I live on a main road, but then around the neighborhoods where they don't have lines up, whenever they're helping those other people get their service, they cut ours off. So I was watching the Phillies game the other day, and just as Rhys Hopkins was up and the swings at the pitch, it froze. And I see the outfield wall, and I assumed it was a home run, but it froze at the absolute most inopportune time. And I'm screaming at my TV, and I'm going crazy. And then by the time it came back on and rebooted and the whole thing, it was 2-1. So he made it 2-0. And then the Astros had already come up and batted and hit a home run to make it 2-1. So there's nothing worse about, losing your cable or having a frozen TV set than when you're watching a sporting event live, man. It doesn't get any more outrageous than that. But the Phillies won. We're all happy. And I was hoping to be on the video link here tonight, but unfortunately the internet's just not stable enough.
Well, maybe if we do it about 1 o'clock in the morning, who knows, Tony? Maybe we'll get it back then. We'll go into the night literally at 2 o'clock in the morning. But listen, nonetheless, thank you again for joining us, and with us as well as David Magley. If you remember, Tony, he once played for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and now he is the president of the Basketball League. Also a fan as well, just like the rest of us. And David, thanks for we just lost him. There he goes. He's back again. David, thank you for joining us as well. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, guys. where Mike was so that my phone overheated. It literally it shut down because it was so hot. So I'm like, this dude is on fire. It shut down somehow. It's unbelievable.
He always is.
I'm
That's
a
just the
little
way
hot myself here in Philly.
he always is. But listen, Tony, and you're talking about Reese Hoskins, obviously, and it's a shame because that's, we've seen commercials where it'll do that, where all of a sudden it'll just end up freezing up, and you hope it doesn't at the most routine moment. But the more important one was the Bryce Harper, that 2-run shot, obviously in the bottom of the 8th. Did it freeze up on you, or were you able to see the whole entire thing?
No, that part was on, thankfully, and I got to see the end of the game. It only froze like twice during the game. So, of course, I'm sitting there waiting, hoping that it doesn't do it again. And luckily, after the second time, I got to watch everything until the Sunday. So I watched it all the way through, and then the Sunday night game came on, and I didn't care at that point, because I just wanted to see the Phillies get into the World Series, and they did. And, we were talking about a long time ago. I remember, I go back to 1964. That's how old I am, when the Phillies choked away the pennant in the last weekend. And so, the long-suffering Philly fans from the 60s, the 70s, when they had that great team with Boa, Lazinski, Schmidt, and they were going to National League Championship Series year after year, but they were up against the Big Red Machine and the Dodgers back in those days. And so the Phillies just couldn't quite crack the World Series thing until they brought Pete Rose in 1980. And that's why that 1980 World Series was so special, because nobody living had ever seen the Phillies win any kind of championship. Unlike the Eagles, who at least won the NFL in 60, the Super Bowl was super spectacular, and the Phillies had a couple of cracks at it before they finally won. But then you go to 1993, the next time the Phillies had a ragtag bunch of guys who were just fun to watch, the crazy, the Lenny Dykstras and the John Crooks and, Darren Dutch Dalton. I mean, that was a fun team to watch too, and they scrapped and they clawed, and they got to the World Series. And then, of course, Joe Carter at the very end, spoiled the party for Philadelphia. But everybody still loves that 93 team because they were the meat and potatoes, grinded out kind of guys. So nobody really, Mitch Williams took a lot of crap for a couple of years,
right.
But everybody realized that, Mitch wasn't trying to give up a home run to Joe Carter. Joe Carter got a big ball to hit, and he hit it out of the ballpark. But this team, guys, as we fast forward after the 08 championship, which we saw, and then the Phillies had to come back and finish the game after. I was in Las Vegas for that with my son, and they had the rain out, and then we had to come back the next night. So we were ready to party, and then all of a sudden the rain out happens, and then we come back the next night to finish the game. So that was one of those. All right, let me see a World Series win, okay? We had to go all. We went from we had to go from 1980 to 2008, and then we finally got the second one. And 93 was close, and now this one. And this one, even though this team has a tremendously high payroll, let's be honest, nobody thought the Phillies were going to go to the World Series, especially, with the Braves in the division. The Mets did a lot of good things. So this ride and this team has really, really captivated the city. And I say this without getting political. Thank God for the Phillies, because the Phillies getting into the World Series united the city. I mean, everybody's talking about how bad things are in the city and the crime. The one thing about sports, guys, that absolutely galvanizes the city is everybody gets behind the team and forgets about all the political bullshit when a team gets everybody together as one.
No, it's true.
The Flyers. Sports makes everybody happy and makes everybody realize, that this is what life and fun is all about, man. Having somebody represent you and your city and doing us proud.
You're absolutely right. Because
it brings people together, Tony. Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's nothing better than, obviously, for what we see from the Eagles, especially from the Phillies, because it's been so long. And I said, as I mentioned last week on the show as well, Tony, is that I didn't pick the Phillies to win a division just because the way the bullpen was. Not saying, obviously, we have a solid bullpen, but we've been scratching, clawing, you name it, in order to be able to win the series. Obviously, we saw when Hand came in, Lord knows I wanted to throw a rock at the TV because I couldn't believe that's what Rob Thompson did. But, he told him, hang in there. That's exactly what he did. Then you have Dominguez, Sir Anthony. He came in lights out the night before. Then the next day, he basically gives up 2 wild pitches to bring in the runs. So it's like you're rooting for one, and you're saying, man, what's wrong with this guy? Then you say the polar opposite the next day. But in the end, thankfully, the bullpen that was there was able to save things. And thanks for Suarez because, man, you talking about a nail biter from it's a miracle you didn't hear me from Sarasota, because I'm telling you, I had to bite everything that I had, nails, fingers, toes, the whole 9 yards in order to save this. But I'm so excited for the Phillies. Rob Thompson is, first of all, a complete class act. The guy, from thanking the fans to the players to the wives to the people who work for the Phillies organization. You talk about class. It's the same way, and David knows this because I put it out all the time on tweets. You compare the Phillies to the TBL. The TBL does everything, the professional basketball league. The basketball league does everything with class. And for people who believe in the basketball league and they see what's going on with these teams, adding additional teams, what they do in the community, the involvement that they have. David himself, who travels everywhere, which I told him just before the show started, probably has 40,000 miles on his feet alone. Forget the airline miles. He's probably got 40,000 miles on his feet. But it's, you put those two classes together, it's a complete class act. So I'm super excited for what's going to happen here. We know that we're still waiting to see exactly who's going to be named for starting pitcher for both the Astros and the Phillies. But I can't wait to see what's going to happen. So Fuji, I leave it up to you, sir.
As of right now, I heard Aaron Nola probably against Justin Verlander. Sounds like Topper's going to go with Aaron Nola from what the reports are coming out of Philly today.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can clarify that or not, Sean. Dylan?
Yeah, it's going right. Aaron Nola's on for game 1.
Yeah. And the last time Aaron Nola pitched in Houston, he pitched a very good game in Houston. And Houston's
That's
not
when
an
they
easy place.
clinched.
Yeah, it's when they clinched, exactly. So, if Aaron Nola, comes out the same way he did that game when they clinched, I mean, that's a big win. They need to win in Houston. Houston's not an easy place to play during the playoffs. So they need a big win in Houston, to definitely, propel them, especially when they get at home, because we know what they could do at home.
I want to show one thing here before I get Tony back on with us here as well. But for those who missed this, and if you missed it, I don't know exactly where you were. Maybe you were busy doing stuff. I don't know. Something could have happened. But for those who missed this, and I'm pretty sure Fuji's probably getting more fired up for this one, because Bryce Harper right now, the MV3 in this city, was ridiculous what he did the other night. So here's a video and a recap of what Bryce Harper did in order to carry this team into the World Series.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Bryce Harper. Suarez delivers. Swing and a drive. Left field. It's deep. It's going. Yes! And it is gone!
Yes!
It is bedlam at the bank as Bryce Harper has put the Phillies on top.
Are you kidding me? Oh,
His 10th career home run in the postseason. And he may never hit a bigger one.
wow. Wow.
4-3 Phillies in the bottom of the 8th inning.
It's crazy. Crazy.
Of hearing that as well, and obviously Bryce Harper taking that one out of the ballpark. Out of all the games, out of everything you've done in your career, Tony, would this be, I would say, at least one of those top 10 moments in Philly history?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We've had, the thing about Philly, as you guys know, and me being a guy who was born and raised there and spent most of my life there up until this year, it's that Bryce Harper is a superstar. Everybody knew it. People, when he was with the Nationals, fans used to get on him because they wanted to have him here. We always loved the guys on the other teams, and we like to call them overrated. When Bryce Harper came here, and he signed that deal, people were hoping he would be the face of the franchise. And it took a few years. I mean, this team was not good. They didn't have a lot of stuff around them. And so it took a while to build this. And then the Phillies, which has been a bad organization, and as far as hiring players and making trades and getting guys up. The Sixers went through this, the Flyers went through this, the Phillies went through this, the Eagles went through it, and now the Eagles seem to have made all the right moves in the offseason. And then this team, with the ownership group and Dave Dombrowski, veteran guy who's done it before, they put the right pieces together. The trades at the deadline, picking up 3 guys from the Angels. Everything that they did worked out because, as you mentioned, this team was a mess. Their bullpen was a joke. They were the worst bullpen So you used to be afraid when somebody came out of the pen, but something gelled, and this is on teams where everybody believes because the superstar leads the way. When the superstar is out there showing everybody, I'm gonna take this team and you're all gonna follow me. It's something that just resonates through the clubhouse. The manager, they loved him. I mean, just think, Joe Girardi everybody wanted Joe Girardi, right? When the Phillies made a decision,
right?
And Joe Girardi came in there. He was a good manager, but there was something missing, and you saw it at the beginning of the year. They weren't listening to him. He wasn't making adjustments. He was doing all kinds of crazy shit. And then all of a sudden they make the move in June and boom, things started clicking. So that's what it takes to win a championship. Now, I don't know if it's serious because Houston, despite all the talk about, they were banging on garbage cans.
Yeah.
Organization in baseball. I mean, you don't lose the kinds of players they do, trade guys, give up on guys, move on, and still maintain excellence year after year after year. So anybody who's still doing about the banging on the trash cans and the secret signals and stuff, these guys are a great team. And so if the Phillies find a way to beat them, this will be probably maybe at least top 3 of the greatest sports championships in Philadelphia history.
I'd agree.
Absolutely.
I'd agree wholeheartedly. Fuji?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, it's like David slaying Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. And, listen, it's to me, I can't. We go. I mean, again, going back to 1980, going back to 2008, it's almost like the combination of those two. Even if you add, I guess, 93, it's probably the best feeling that's been for a while. And Tony, you said it completely right. It has united the city because Lord knows with everything that's going on right now, this actually distracts you from just even if it's for 5 minutes, just to see how everyone in Philadelphia has been, how they've interacted with each other. We know it when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I saw, I was still back home when that happened. It's almost like New York. New York, a lot of times you'll see it where people just don't say hi to each other just because it is. Yeah, everybody's just flying around, doing their thing and everything else. When I moved down here to Florida, of course, you get a lot more highs and how are you and how's your day going? Because it's a lot slower. People are, you're friendlier. Everybody's kind of getting away from that hustle and bustle up in the Northeast. But you take this team right now and what they're doing for this city and fueling for, because let's not forget the Eagles right now, yes, they're undefeated at the moment because they're coming off their bye. They know they have another game coming up this week. But you look at the Flyers are trying to get things turned around as well with John T. They're trying to figure out exactly what they can end up doing. The Sixers, Doc Rivers, we know that, he's trying to work with the bench with what he has. There's not much coming off the bench again this year. But the Phillies are doing things that I would have never. Someone would have told me back at the All-Star break that the Phillies are going to be in the World Series. I still honestly would have doubts because you just didn't expect it with this bullpen. So I guess now the $1 million question is, Tony, which again, because they haven't started the World Series, come next year when we've heard David talking about as far as spending stupid money with the organization and what they want to do. Now you're talking about looking for your bullpen. Are the Phillies now going to either see what's out there, obviously in the market as far as free agency, or do they try and do basically what the Rays have been doing for years, going with what's coming out of the draft and in the minors to kind of rebuild this bullpen?
Well, you look at the Phillies draft picks. I mean, let's be honest, Mickey Moniak, just go down the list of young guys that they drafted high. I mean, Alec Bohm is obviously developing, but look at Moniak and look at all the guys that they tried and drafted high and have failed. And then you got, Alec Bohm, it took him a couple of years. Now he's starting to play well. Now you got a situation, Stott. I mean, Bryson Stott, this guy came out of nowhere, right? And now he's a starter. This is a guy who, Scott Kingery, go through the list of names of all these guys that they thought was going to be the next third baseman or the next shortstop or the next second baseman. And they got guys that just fell into their laps that they drafted that didn't have the big hoopla other than Bohm because he was a top 5 pick. And those are the guys who come through and they get a chance and then they perform. So that's what's amazing about this current Phillies team because they've been bad long enough that they should have piled up draft picks like the Atlanta Braves did. And then those draft picks started hitting. Finally, the Phillies had a couple of players who hit this year in obviously Alec Bohm. And, people were down on Rhys Hoskins when he started off great and then slowed down a little bit. But then all of a sudden, boom, here he is with all these great players around him. and he's feeding off the energy of the Harpers and all these other guys and the Schwarbers. I mean, a lot of people were down on Schwarber because his average was bad,
Right.
but this guy has been money in the postseason. This is a professional hitter. Rhys Hoskins, as you saw, I mean, who is more impressive? I mean, we knew Schwarber was going to hit home runs. We knew Bryce Harper. Who was more impressive than Rhys Hoskins coming up in the clutch in this series after making a couple of mistakes earlier?
Man, it's absolutely true. And we saw, I mean, again, because we know how Philly, we know how this city is. They love you or hate you, one and a two, but they're gonna do it because they're trying to bring the best out of you. We all know this as Philly fans. We know this. We've seen guys who've come, whether it be in the Phillies, whether it be in the Flyers, Sixers, or the Eagles, have gone west anywhere but Philly and won a championship. So you're right, because the hardest team right now, obviously other than Bryce Harper, you got Rhys Hoskins, who had stepped up, and he had doubts throughout the year, just like you said. We didn't know exactly what Alec Bohm was going to end up doing, although they asked him the other day, how's he feel now? He says he loves his city, which at one point, of course, because out of frustration, he said he hated his place, but didn't mean it as he had talked about it. So for this turnaround and the way this team has handled themselves, I can't wait for things to happen the way they are. And then coincidentally, during the schedule as well, in between game 2 and game 3, you have the Eagles game, so you don't even have to miss out on the Phillies. Then you got games 4 and 5, and before as they're hopefully if they go 6 games, they'll be back in Houston. Could the Eagles take care of the Texans that Thursday, and then you turn around and look basically that Friday, the Phillies could take care of business unless they end up sweeping. So it's just the way this whole schedule, the way everything fell into place right now, it is just a momentum for the rest of these teams to be able to get to where they need to be. So I lost something here. Tony, you still there?
No, I'm here. I just heard you twice.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I heard myself twice as well.
Double angel.
But it happens. Fuji, I don't know if you have a follow-up question, sir.
Well, I mean, just to piggyback off what Tony said, Bryson Stott, Alec Bohm. Let's not forget Aaron Nola, homegrown pitcher. Aaron Nola's had some issues the last couple years, and the guy's been lights out. Went through September, October, answered the bell, and now, Topper's giving him the nod come Friday night. Wheeler was the ace all year, and now you're going to the homegrown talent to start game 1. So that speaks volumes.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is special. And whenever anybody's team gets into the postseason, like look at the Yankees, for example. The Yankees have to win every year. I mean, they haven't won since 2009, a year after the Phillies did, and they've only won 2 world championships, 2000. And so the Yankees and their fans, they expect to win every single year. And then this year, especially with a great season they had, they got out of the gate. They looked like they weren't going to lose a game. And then all of a sudden, you get into the postseason, and you can see their starting pitching wasn't as great as they thought it would be. They had some guys hurt, certainly. But their main players, the Aaron Judges and those guys, they came up small in the postseason. And that's why the Yankee fans know that they need to get Aaron Judge back because he's a free agent. So when you're in New York, you got to overpay guys. You can't lose an Aaron Judge because New York's not supposed to lose star players. People want to go there. And so the pressure on the Yankees, and now even the Mets, who put something together and had a special run this year, even they're under pressure now because the Phillies, the third-place team with 87 wins, basically is now the best team in the National League. So that's what makes sports great. You can put it down on paper and predict stuff and say, how many people predicted the Patriots and not the Patriots, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Green Bay Packers to be great again this year, right? And now look at them. They're both absolute disaster areas.
Right. Now, listen, Tony, you bring up a great point there because Tom Brady, which I don't know how in the world he gets away with it because you got to look at it. First of all, he said during the preseason that he had something to do with his family, so he took 2 weeks off. Then when the regular season came around, again, he had something to do. Supposedly he was supposed to go to Jamaica with his family. And then there was no pictures, no anything else. So if you're going to Jamaica or you're going somewhere, usually there's pictures, there's videos, it's with the kids. And now we hear rumors because no one's been able to solidify whether he's getting divorced or not. And, and that's a private affair between him and his wife and the family. But Tom Brady and Tony, I don't know if you agree or not. When you come down to Tampa and you were able to win that 7th ring, and whether people say, well, at least he didn't cheat, it wasn't with the Patriots, whatever the case would be, it comes to Tampa. He's able to win not only with the Bucs, but also the only team so far in the NFL that's ever won it at home during the Super Bowl era. Call me crazy, but shouldn't he have just walked away from the game then?
Well, he did. Remember, he retired for a couple of days, and everybody was saying, oh, great. And Gronk retires. Gronk stayed. Listen, I don't tell athletes what to do. I mean, if Brady wants to keep playing, but you can see what's going on when you don't have the pieces around you. And Brady, has had a lot of injuries, but then he's got Mike Evans out there dropping a touchdown. Right. So that's the point about when you have superstars and they're all playing on a high level. Then one guy at a high level, Mike Evans, a Hall of Famer, drops a wide open touchdown pass. That has an effect of absolutely, it trickles down to the rest of the team. Everybody's wondering, looking at each other. Hey, why are you doing this? That's what's going on with Tampa. The same thing with the Packers. They lose Devontae Adams, and then the young guys have to step up. And then there's just not that cohesion on either the Packers or on the Buccaneers right now. And they're digging themselves a hole. And, look at the NFC East. I mean, Washington just won a game. They're just one game under 500. You got the Cowboys are 5-1. Obviously, the New York Giants are a force to be reckoned with. So this NFC East, as we kick it to football for a minute, this is going to be a hard division. The Eagles are looking good now, but there's a lot of football to play. So I think the Eagles have a tough road ahead of them. Everybody wants them to win every week, and it's hard to do that. But now it's going to be an interesting division. But that's where the good teams rise to the top. And the Eagles have everything they need right now. The only thing I see as a problem is the special teams. I mean, they got to tighten up on the special teams.
All right.
Yep. I 100% agree. In case anyone's tuning in right now, we have Tony Bruno on the line with us here. Of course, from No Filter Network. In case you guys want to know exactly where he is, Tony's not gone. He's on the No Filter Network Friday nights. Into the Night with Tony B at 7 p.m. And I tuned in last week. It was, listen, Mike, the Duncan Dad, did a fantastic job filling in for Miss Robin. And I saw, obviously, Miss Robin, that she was out in Denmark, if I remember correctly, and a tremendous job by Duncan Dad to go in and fill in the big shoes for Miss Robin. And by the way, how is Miss Robin doing? I know she had to go away for family matters, but how's she doing, Tony?
She's doing great. She's actually in the Netherlands. That's where she grew up. And it was her grandmother's 90th birthday. So her mom and dad said, hey, we want you to come. Your grandma, who she hasn't seen in 18 years, and she hasn't been back to Holland in 18 years. So They planned this trip earlier in the year, and they took her with her. So she's been there now with WhatsApp, which is a great app, not WhatsApp. That's different than WhatsApp. Everybody's using this WhatsApp now. WhatsApp! And it's phenomenal, man. You get a great, even with my crappy internet here, I still get a crystal clear. She's sitting in Holland. And 6 hours later, and the picture and the audio quality has been great whenever I have a decent enough internet. So She'll be back Thursday night. She'll be back into the night on Friday night. But I'm glad to see she's back with her family and having a good time. And I told her to bring back some red light district action, bring me back some weed, bring me back some wooden shoes, and bring me back a couple of hot chicks sitting in the window.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what ends up happening there, but hopefully not the case. But she travels back safely. But on with us as well, as I said earlier, David Magley with us, the president of the Basketball League. And David, I know you've known Tony as like the rest of us as far as fans for years. We all know that Tony's probably one of the most vocal broadcasters that are out there. A great color commentator. Obviously, Tony's done a lot with not only, and this is where I want people to understand this. Even though Tony says what's on his mind, but don't forget that Tony has also done a lot for the community. Where he lived in Philly, and you guys know him because he was down here in South Philly for many, many years. And so when sometimes when people say, well, Tony's outrageous or Tony does this, and I don't have to defend Tony because he can do it himself, but I'm just letting everybody know they tend to forget that, yes, there is a funny humor side of Tony, but also the community side of Tony as well, because the man has a huge heart. No matter what has ever happened, he's always had a big heart. And that's the one thing I've always appreciated about Tony, knowing him for the many years that I've known him, that I've been able to talk to him for the many times he's come back on the show with us. And it's always fun to have you on, Tony. But David, I'm not too sure if you do have a question out for. Well, wait a minute. Maybe there he goes. He came back. David, I'm not too sure if you ever have a question out for Mr. Tony Bruno.
No, you know what? It's great to listen to all of your passion for the Phillies and for Philadelphia specifically. Listening to Tony go back to the C's and detailing of that. Being a Cubs fan, all of ours ended in disaster, but we all remember the miraculous Mets when the Cubs fell apart, and the passion. And he made a great statement about this is what community's about is the passion around their place and sport and their wins and their losses, and they take great pride in that. And I think as a league, we really are looking at something that's unique because we're in small to medium markets around North America, and we see that passion. It's not in Philadelphia, but it's in Kokomo. I mean, you'll be in Kokomo, Indiana, and somebody will tear up because they can't believe that they've got Cliff Livingston coaching their team, and they've got guys that are running around dunking in front of a couple thousand fans in a sweaty gym in June. And they're going, wow, this is just, I can't believe this is in Kokomo. And even though it's a much smaller microcosm, what you see is they start the game with the 1961 state champ when Jimmy Rail, and they name a boulevard after the freaking guy because he made one jump shot. It's just unbelievable how passionate these teams are and the fans are in these communities. And it does my heart good to see you all just going at it about how excited you are, at least, because I think that's what sports about, and fortunate to be in it and getting paid to be a part of it. It's pretty cool.
Well, thank you, David. And listen, first of all, let me just say, we're being involved for the basketball league. It's been you talk about community, and Tony, at one point, maybe hopefully you can come up here for the weekend. And no, you know what? Let's scratch that. Unless we go to Orlando, because I forgot the Titans are completely out of it. But nevertheless, I'll end up getting you to a basketball game there, Tony. You can see what this league is all about. The one thing that I will say about the basketball league, and I've said it earlier, if you guys just watch on social media, the community involvement, just like David said, they're heavily involved in the community, and every team. You look at Owensboro Thoroughbreds. I just talked to Mark Anderson not so long ago. Same thing. They are heavily involved. The Cincinnati Warriors are trying to come on, and they said that they want basically like a drive-in type theater videos so they can bring the entire team on all at once. But the involvement these guys have in the community, you're absolutely right, David, because it's a passion. The basketball league is much different than obviously the other three-letter team that's out there, the other three-letter league that's out there as well. But it's just how you and Evelyn come down to the different games and understand this isn't your billion-dollar industry or anything else like that. These are teams who are trying to make it and devote their time and their passion as much as Evelyn and David do to get these teams together, to go from 5 teams to 50 teams in 5 years, to be able to bring that excitement. When I was with the Tampa Bay Titans last year, along with Dylan, we enjoyed it so much because you can have one night, you can have, let's say, 10 fans, but those 10 fans can duplicate and triplicate, go from 10 to 100 to 1,000 just because of the energy they end up bringing. So the basketball league, I put a tweet out there as well, that it's more than just basketball, because if you look at what these guys end up doing as they go into the NBA league, a couple of guys got drafted this year to the NBA league. You also have people who may have tickets to a show and tell someone else, hey, you want to go to that show? I have those tickets for you. This is more than just basketball. The basketball league is more than basketball. So for those who, again, say that, oh, maybe the league wasn't for me, or maybe the league isn't this, you need to see a little more than just what's on top of the surface. Look what's below the surface. Because if I believe in this league and I see what they're doing and I see where they're going, I hope that everyone that's within the league right now continues to come back and then figure out what to do next to make the chase for the Lily even better. And to me, it's pure excitement when you see these teams. You can buy your $100, your $500 ticket for the NBA, purchase that $10 ticket from your local community teams, and watch how much further that $10 will go than that $1 billion ticket that you end up buying from the other level. So, David, I want to thank you and Evelyn for the work that you guys do, because obviously it's a lot of fun to see this league grow. It's a lot of fun to talk to these teams and see what they're all about and talk about what they want to do, their exploration or their expectations, their aspirations. There's so many things that everybody wants to do within this league. And I just hope, even though we know that you guys want these players to move up to that next level, but some of these players I'm dying to see to come back because some of their games are just beyond ridiculous. So thank you for what you guys do.
First of all, you and Dylan do an amazing job of the games. And so we're blessed to have a lot of great announcers like you. And, if we do this right, then we help you all get better opportunities. We have dancers that are dancing on NBA floors this year. We have coaches that are in G League coaching situations, or some have made it all the way to the NBA assistant coaching level. Guys are playing around the world. Indy Waters is playing with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And, there's just a lot of great story, and there's so much talent. And what we are is an extra league. But to go back to Tony Bruno talking about these players and their impact. Imagine when one of our 6'9" guys with a blonde faux hawk walks into Jamestown, New York, and a kid looks up and they go, well, this exact thing happened. One of our players, one of our team got a call from a supporter saying there's a kid at school. We're losing him. I can tell we're losing him. He's 12 years old, 13 years old. He won't eat with his classmates. His father just went to jail. His mother's not around. He's just depressed, but he loves the Jackals. Can we do something? They said, sure, we're having a team dinner tonight. Bring him out. They brought him out. The guys treated him like he was the most important thing. The next day at school, he's telling everybody, I met the Jackals. I was with the Jackals. His favorite 6'9" kid from the Congo walks in with a blonde faux hawk. The freaking kid loses his mind. Daniel, he runs up to him, high fives him, hugs him, sits with them at lunch. It changes the trajectory of that young man's life just because he needed some affirmation. That was one moment the celebrity could do something so much better than making $1 million or being a fan or signing a shoe. Just taking the time to know that kid. And that's the granular level we can be on that you can't be. These NFL, NBA, MLB guys, they can't get to that level. They've got security running in front of them. But for our guys, we demand that they're out on the floor 30 minutes after the game, hugging, shaking, and kissing babies. Because A, it's good for our brand, but B, we have power that teachers and coaches and even parents don't have sometimes, because we all know kids turn us out at a certain point, but they still look up to their heroes. And if our heroes do the right thing, we change some dynamics. And that's what we try to be. Getting 2,000-3,000 fans a game, it's growing. We're going to get there with our situation in the NBL Canada and our teams in Canada. I just got off the phone with the team in Jamaica and a group in Mexico. It will be a North American league that will be 3 times the size of the NBA footprint. It'll never compete with the NBA because we can't afford that, nor do we want to. We want to build a brand that's a wonderful showcase league for everybody involved. They get someplace, and then the next guy come in, next man up, and there's just limitless resources for us to go from.
No, and listen, we've seen a lot of things happen. We continue to see things happen. I can't wait to what's going to happen in the 23 campaign, because it seems like every single team is stepping up. And Dylan, you know this as well. We've talked to Wenatchee. We've talked to a couple teams here, and we've had fun with them to see what they're doing. I wish Anthony was able to join us tonight, but I know he probably had a sensitive issue he had to deal with. But it's exciting. It's really exciting. And speaking of Dylan there, Tony, and I know Sean had a question as well. Hopefully Sean will end up popping back in here. But for Tony, Dylan had a question. And let me remind you, Dylan is 16 years old. He still drinks his Ovaltine.
Oh my gosh.
But he had a question for you as far as what can he do for his next level? But Dylan, I will let you ask the question, sir.
Angel, thank you. Tony, don't listen to Angel. I am 20 years old, but he likes to, add a few extra, less years on me. So it's all good in that end. But Tony, obviously being wanting to get into the sports broadcasting industry, wanting to get into radio, podcast, wherever it may be, there's a lot that you have to learn and a lot that you have to grow on. I think my big question is, obviously with a guy that in your stature who's had so much time in this industry. What's just some advice you would give to somebody who's getting into the industry, who's wanting to jump into it, especially at my age where I'm 20 years old, just kind of doing some, stuff and really getting my feet wet, if you will, in this industry?
Well, I tell the same thing to everybody because people say to me, young broadcasters say, hey, you know what, how do I become like Tony Bruno? And I said, you don't become me, you become you. And I have a lot of friends now. And with the good thing with podcasting and internet, for example, on No Filter Network, anybody can do a show on No Filter. They came after a few people like me and guys who were canceled in regular radio. And so they said, hey, you know what? We're going to put together a network, and they've got some funding out there in the San Francisco Bay Area with some big money guys. And they hired Jeremy Roenick, and they hired Eric Burns, who's part of the operation. And they got a whole bunch of people who obviously have names and have an audience that they can attract to this format. But the good thing about places like this, and they're growing, is that you can do your own show there and start out there. You're not going to have a big audience. It's like the basketball league. You're not going to have 1 million people listening to you. You may have 10 people listening to you. But when you have something to say and and you're confident enough to speak whatever you want to talk about, it doesn't have to be sports. It could be anything, politics, science, whatever. Anything you want to find on the internet today, you can find it. Spoken word, written word. And so broadcasting now to me is wide open. You don't have to go to a broadcasting school. You don't have to have a journalism degree like I did or a political science degree and start off working overnights at a local news station. You can do your thing, get heard, put a tape together, and then if somebody likes what you're doing, they'll contact you. That's what's going on right now. So people say, it's harder than ever to move up the food chain in radio and TV, and that may be true. But there's so many opportunities that are there that once you get your foot in the door, and look at all the producers. For example, Nick Cale, who was one of my producers in Philly at 97.5 The Fanatic. Harry Mays and I were doing our show middays. Nick Cale was running the board. Then he was doing weekend updates. Then he moved with his family down to Atlanta and did sports talk down there and got a job. Then he moved to Nashville and did sports talk there. And now his hometown, he just got hired to do the morning show at 12:10 a.m., the 50,000-watt CBS station in Philadelphia. I mean, so you talk about moving up the food chain, but he did so because he wanted to get better. He started at the bottom. He was answering phones, and he was running the board in a radio station. We've got another guy, Trevor Harris. He was up in the 213 in Connecticut. He used to listen to the show. He moved down to Miami, got a job at the WQAM, which is a station that has the Miami Dolphins, and they got the Miami Heat. And so he's in there working the board. And now they give him an air shift every once in a while. So you look around radio and all the new young up-and-coming talent, these were people that went to work at radio stations making virtually nothing just to try to get their foot in the door and get an opportunity to, work behind the scenes, get to know the talent, get to know the operation, and then get a chance like on a weekend. Hey, you know what? Somebody's not working today. How about you do a shift on the air? And you get on the air and somebody hears you. And then before you know it, if you're impressive enough and they think that you got what it takes, you'll move up the food chain. So all of the guys at WFAN that you hear now on networks doing radio, TV, broadcasting, they all started out as update guys. So you don't start at the top and you don't have to wait 30 years to move your way up the food chain. But I think for men, women, minorities, no matter who you are, if you've got something to say and you're pretty good, you can make it in this business. You're not going to become a millionaire. There's not going to be any more $1 million morning show guys. That time has come and gone. But if you want to have a career like I did, you decide this is what you want to do, and then you just go after it.
No, good sound advice. And hopefully they only end up getting the answer there. And by the way, as I was talking about Mike there, the Duncan dad, he chimes in here, Tony, on the banner side. He says, DD here, let's go. So good to see Mike here on with us tonight. Obviously, Tony's here. And by the way, so now that the Duncan dad is here, I can see Anthony Bleak in the background there as well. But between Tony and myself, we wanted to break the news to everybody. So we decided to buy WKRP in Cincinnati and bring it back. And we're going to call it the Tony Bruno Show via Broad Street South. And we're just going to change the initials a little bit and run the station from there. But Tony, how's that sound to you?
Good. Can I be, who am I, Dr. Johnny Fever? I don't want to be the sales guy.
No,
I don't want to be the weasel sales guy.
No,
Les Nessman.
You can be
I
Dr.
want to be Les Nessman. I'll drop the turkeys all over Sarasota. I'll come down and bring my helicopter and see if turkeys can fly.
That would work.
You know,
Oh man.
Angel, I think Tony makes a great point in all of sports. Though we get so many interns that have gone on to social media jobs in the NBA or different places, and they come and they work for free, and they do dirt jobs to do anything for an opportunity to break in.
Right.
And that's how it's got to start. He's right. There's not going to be some great interview that you do and you walk in and next thing you know, you're $1 million in radio. But in all of these sport-related fields, if you're willing to grind, there's probably more opportunities to get. It's just how good are you to get this, right? And if you put in the work, if you do the extra podcast, go ahead.
He was agreeing
But if you
with
do
you,
everything, okay, good. I just think that's awesome advice, because I get so many people that come in and they'll say, well, I can't do this for that. What else do you have to do? You need a resume. We're going to help you get that resume. If we can afford it, we'll pay you. But if we can't, man, do it the right way. That's how you're going to get your break. And yeah, that's the edict that we've got sports marketing people graduating. And I'm just like, there's not many. Get in where you can and build something and watch your opportunity fall in your lap.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because you look at it, I mean, we started here 2 years ago on Broad Street South, and we've been able to grow little by little, and obviously we've been fortunate enough that we have people who listen to the show overseas. I mean, we got 18 countries, 2 more that we just added, so we got 20 countries overseas that listen to the show. We have people down in South America, all over the U.S., and it's been fortunate because you keep it as professional as you possibly can, number one, but you have fun along the way, but you also don't forget the people that helped you along the way as well. And I keep saying every single year we hope to get to that next step and keep going from there. And I'm not done yet. Just because you're 52 years old, and a lot of people say, well, now you're old. 52 is not old. 62 is not old. You have 83-year-olds that are sharp as a 21-year-old. So you're never old to try and get into something new. It's a sacrifice that you want to make and the time that you want to put in to see where your company can go. And Fuji knows this as my right-hand man, that he knows it. You know, we're not done yet as far as growing, excelling, doing what we need to do to finally get out there in front of everybody. And we've invited people. We've had more no's and we've had yes. We had, we've been fortunate to have Tony with us now for, our fifth turnaround with Tony. And every single time, it's always a lot of fun every time we have Tony on. But you don't give up because you don't know where that next break is going to be. I've been very fortunate, as I told you before, David, with being with the Titans and then meeting you guys and be able to share my experience and put stuff out there on social media. I don't know where the next move could end up being with the TBL. So it is getting in somewhere. Finding out, what's good for you, making sure you put a good product together, make sure everything looks good. More importantly, your sound more than anything else, but making sure you can do all the good things as much as you possibly can to work hard. And Tony said it right as well. You're not trying to be the next Tony Bruno. You need to be you and figure out what's going to make you happy, what's going to make you work, what's going to make you sacrifice. Because Lord knows 3:30 in the morning starts around here and I'm in the studio. Head off to work about, 7:45 in the morning. Get back here about 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. Quick dinner with my lovely girlfriend. Start it all over again. Come back in the studio. Keep it going. Promos, this, that, and the other. Reaching out to people just like Fuji does as well. So it never stops, and it won't stop until I'm finally happy to where everyone needs to be. Not me, where everyone needs to be, because there is no I in team, as dumb as it may sound for a lot of people, but it's absolutely true. So I'm very fortunate for you, David, and having the opportunity with the TBL. I'm fortunate also with Tony, because Tony, for the many years he's been on radio and listening to him and everything that he's done, it all comes around full circle. So who even knew on a night like this that we have 2 great ambassadors on with us? And, Fuji obviously always ends up bringing the energy. I love the man to death. He knows it, because it's been a blessing for me to be with him from the very beginning. Dylan, not so much. He's trying to grow that Chia Pet thing that he has. But no.
Is it the Blue Jays hat? Is that what's doing?
No, it's that Chia Pet thing you're trying to grow that looks somewhat like
I'll tell you a secret.
Yep.
We're going to need to develop our own podcast network, and we're going to need personalities to manage something that's weekly, that's TBL branded. As good as you are, ultimately, I just walked out of the door, and He's giving me an ugly look that's not very happy. She already thought of it, but that's something that is going to be something that could be really big. We're broadcast to 146 countries on our live streaming, so it can be on our live stream network. There's so many things that we can do, and it's professional. The more professional we are, the more value we have. Whether Tony ever gets to a game or not, ultimately, this is a guy that wakes up every morning with something to do. I heard before we got on the different shows he's on and the different things he's doing, even down in Naples, decimated with hurricane. He's figuring out a way to still be live and active and honoring his commitment to you as everyone else, which is impressive. But as we get better, we'll stand out. We'll look at the quality of our branding and they'll go, whether they ever saw a game or not, that looks like a real legit. And you guys will be a part of that because of your faithfulness and the way you grind it. I watch you every day on Twitter, and I'm like, these guys give us more love than anybody. And I appreciate that because we are trying to do something. And when you recognize it, it makes all the difference in the world. So my wife will be in touch with you shortly. She'll be mad at me tonight, but she'll be talking to you guys.
No, listen, hello, Evelyn. Don't be too upset, but no, I hear you. And no, believe me, Dave, I do appreciate it. And Sean, I know you've been cutting in and out. I know you had a question for Tony. So before you cut out again, please ask your question.
With this Houston Phillies, how far do you see this series going? And do you think of any key free agents they'll be drafting after the season?
You're breaking up a little bit. I don't know about free agents. I mean, obviously, Aaron Judge, but Aaron Judge isn't going anywhere. I mean, if the Yankees don't sign him, they should just shut down. They should just bulldoze Yankee Stadium. I mean, they've got him. I don't know if the Yankees make a managerial move because the fans are all over, Brett Boone now, or Aaron Boone, whoever, one of the Boone brothers. I knew their dad. I knew the Boone kids when they were little kids, and they would come to the Phillies when their dad, Bob Boone, was the catcher, and they would hang out in the dugout. So the Aaron Boone and Brett, they were down there in the Phillies organization. They weren't in the organization. They were with their dad on the field early in their lives as kids. And so, the bottom line is the Phillies, they'll make some moves. Even if they don't win the World Series, I don't think they'll stand pat. I think you'll find free agents who want to play here because the Philly operation is legit. They have a good manager. They've got good players. And so that's what happens. Players want to play where their good teams are. It's like the NBA. The NBA, players want to play for good franchises with good players around them. And, and unfortunately, not every team has all good players. Not all teams can get a superstar. And so that's why some smaller markets have to overpay for guys to go there. And it's usually guys who've won championships. So that's what goes on. And that's why I think, young players in the basketball league and in the G League, these are the guys that are looking for their chance to take the step up. And a lot of them make that. Not everybody's going to do it, but I think the Phillies are in a good spot right now. They're not old. They don't have a lot of old, broken down players. So I think they'll be able to, with the organization in place and an owner who wants to spend not crazy money like he did last year, but smart money with good people around him, this team should be able to keep it together. Brett, remember, Bryce Harper's only 30 years old, right in the prime of his career right now. So he's got a good 5, 6, 7 years at least.
No, that he does. Well, listen, as we're wrapping up the show here, Tony, first of all, thank you once again for joining us. And next time, you know what we have to do, Tony, next time? Maybe we have to do a Western Union. Maybe that's how we'll get everything going and get everything fired back up. But either way, hopefully we'll get the video fixed for the next time. But listen, thank you once again for coming on. We hope that Miss Robin has a safe return back home. And more importantly, please let everyone know exactly where they can find you.
Well, we're live on Friday now. I know a lot of people say, well, Friday night, there's a lot of sports on. The World Series game will be on Friday night, game 1. But the good thing about the show, if you can't join us live, we do it at 7 o'clock Eastern time every Friday night at No Filter Net. And No Filter, you don't have to pay, but you have to sign in. They're not going to take credit cards or any of that stuff. So you sign in, you become part of the show. And then when we go live, you not only come in and there's a chat room going live, but if you want to chime in on the show, there's a little knocker room. There's like a little fist on it, and you hit that, and then we'll bring you on the air, and you're on the show as well. So it's fully interactive. We have, regulars who join us every week. We have new people every week. So go to @NoFilterNet, and then look up Tony Bruno Show. And then if you don't hear the show live, it's podcast everywhere you can get a podcast, anywhere on earth. So that's the fun part of doing it. You know, we do whatever we want. We don't have to worry about somebody standing over our shoulders and telling us what to talk about. You know, and after doing this for 50 years, I always respected my bosses. I never had problems, but it's gotten to the point now where, you know what? I've done all the over-the-air radio stuff. I've embraced digital. I've been into the digital formats for a long time. I've been doing podcasts and all these other different things, video games. So I'm not one of these old guys who's 70 who says, that's all I know. I don't want to do all that stuff. If you don't change with the times and don't embrace technology and how the business and the world has changed, you're going to be left behind. So I'm not going to do this until I die, because I don't know when I'm going to die, but I still have the energy. I still love doing it. I love interacting with people. I love meeting people. And so I keep doing it, and it's a fun show. We have a lot of fun. We talk about everything, and I hope people will tune in and check it out. Even if you can't get it live, get it on the podcast, Apple, Spotify, everywhere. Everywhere you can get a podcast, you'll find Tony Bruno Show.
Well, Tony, I hope that when you guys get the opportunity, I know you're building that new mansion down there in your neck of the woods, but hopefully one weekend you guys need a getaway. Of course, the house is always open to you and Miss Robin.
Absolutely. I need to play some golf too. And now that the weather's going to be, now that it's going to be, well, it's always nice in Florida, but now that it's not 100 degrees and high humidity, this is going to be prime season.
It is
prime season for the next few months, baby.
Well, you already know there's
and
golf course
Angel, I was gonna say too. One other thing is he could, as he's going upstate towards your place, he could stop by the Dunedin Blue Jays Stadium and check us out at the Dunedin Blue Jays Stadium. So,
I love Dunedin. I love Robin, and I've been to Florida so many times. I've been to all the spring training facilities down here in Cape Coral. Right across the way, you got Fort Myers, the Red Sox. I mean, Florida is where spring training baseball has always been. I know there's a cactus league too, but the amazing facilities down here in Florida, and this is why everybody comes down here for spring training. It's awesome, from Clearwater to Dunedin, to Plant City and all these other places. It's just awesome.
No, it is. You're absolutely right. And also thank you to David Magley, who joined us here this evening. Again, after taking the whirlwind tour of combine, after visitation, after Canada, after everywhere. David, I don't know where you're heading next, but I know, thank you for taking at least an hour out of your time tonight to somewhat relax, be with us more importantly. And as well, thank you for, again, what you and Evelyn do for the Basketball League, and let everyone know as well what you and the league do before we sign off here.
Well, I just want to, again, acknowledge Tony for being on the show. I may have a new hero because I'm only 62, but I'm blessed because I wake up every morning with a purpose, with something to do. And I'm around people that are older than me that are just going, there's nothing left to do. It's not fun. My retirement plan is death or Walmart. I'm going to be doing something all the time. I'm going to be greeting people at Walmart saying, let me tell you about when I played against Michael Jordan. And they're going to be like, I just want some baby powder. Leave me alone, please. No, let me tell you the story. Because I want to be relevant the rest of my days. And that's the blessing. We will have 53 teams this year, 50 in the U.S., 3 in Canada. Season will start and play we'll play the NBL Canada Series as well. The season will start in March. A few more combines left to try to find guys. Our national draft combine, we'll see 150 guys both days in February 4th and 5th in Indianapolis. And we're going to see a lot of guys get a lot of opportunities. We're stepping up our level on our live streaming to have the highest quality ever. Some great new owners have come in. It's going to be a lot of fun this year. So follow us on thebasketballleague.net. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, whether it's Instagram, where it's T-Basketball League, Twitter, where it's TBL Pro League, or on Facebook, where it's The Basketball League. Clearly, we were too social media savvy, where we got 3 different names, and we started this 6 years ago. But who knew we'd be at this large this fast? So It's been a great blessing, and thanks and you guys being a part of our league is a big deal. Thank you guys so much.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Yeah. No problem whatsoever. And don't forget, on Thursday night, we'll be back here at 8 o'clock with former Texas Ranger Kevin Mensch. Will be on with us on Thursday. Also, Mike, the Duncan Dad, will be also with us on Thursday night as well. So we thank everyone for tuning in once again. Thank you for liking and subscribing to the show. Don't forget to tell your friends and share it. And don't forget to also download the audio, as we are represented in so many different countries that we do appreciate the love and support. And as always, the last man that has a word on the show, Fuji, take us out.
Go Birds and go
Go
fight
Jays.
the Bills.
Yeah, man.